Just wanted to say before the podcast starts, a huge thank you to everyone who is still listening. It's very exciting to have so much support, and I feel very, very honoured to have all of you wonderful people listening and thinking that this is actually helping some of you, or giving some funny bits of advice, or just another perspective on something. So thank you and welcome back. I think you might find throughout this podcast that I'm very quiet and I'm taking notes, and basically spend the whole podcast fascinated by what Rose has got to tell us about cold plunging and this contrast therapy stuff. It is really, 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 really interesting. There is a little bit of discrepancy in some of the audio. I am still new to this and not the most techie person in the world, but I am doing my absolute best. So thank you very, very much for listening. And I really hope you enjoy listening to Rose and all the amazing bits of information she has to share. Welcome to your weekly reminder that only dead fish go with the flow. This week we have a really special guest. Everyone's a special guest, but we have Rose Unwin, who specialises in contrast or thermal contrast therapy. Is that the right terminology?
That's accurate enough. Thermal stress, contrast therapy, they'll both do.
I'm trying to think of the right words, because I normally just dunk in a lake, and I think that is, close to contrast therapy because you're going from the outside to the freezing cold water. But there is actually a lot of science to it, which I think we're about to delve into. So would you like to explain your work as Rose Unwin Wellness?
Which is a bad name for sport. Like, that feels like a jinx, doesn't it? Straight away.
I thought...
But it's my married name.
I see. Husband's fault.
Yeah.
Not a good surname for a
sports psychologist. No.
Very good. Would you like to explain the sport that you're interested in, but also your work?
Of course. I need to say from the outset that I am an enthusiastic amateur. I am, unlike some of these other special guests that you've had, I'm not an elite sportswoman, but I do love sports and always have done. I did actually dream of being an Olympic athlete when I was a teenager, and I had to choose between hockey and eventing, equestrian sport. So I thought, I'll go on and do hockey at Birmingham Union and see if I can get in the England team. I was on the fringes as a teenager. I chose riding, and I was a professional equestrian for a few years. Amazing chapter of my life, but I realised quickly, unless you're, a millionaire or very lucky with sponsorship, it's just not a sport to sustain.
Well, horses, they teach you a lot, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and they buck you off a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot, and they teach you a lot.
Yeah, and I loved it, don't get me wrong, but I wanted to be a bit more financially stable as well, and own a house and have a pension and not be full of arthritis in my 40s. So I'm 37, and I have 2 young children. So time is not like there in abundance, but I do hockey through the winter. I've been playing for Stroud Ladies first. And then last year I thought, why not go for the West of England again, which I did back as a teen, and I got in, and that was just awesome. So for me, that's my Olympics as a working mum with a business. And then in the summer, I do triathlon, and I'm currently training for an Olympic distance triathlon at the Cotswold Water Park in 4 weeks. But my longest distance is half Ironman. I've done 2 of those.
That is a lot. That's very impressive. I famously am not the best cyclist. I love to watch other people. My swimming is terribly questionable, and I think it probably resembles like a dead fish or a rock floating on the bottom of the pool. And my running is even worse, so I'd be absolutely terrible at triathlon. That's why I chose a sitting down sport.
If I wanted to be top of something, I probably shouldn't do triathlon, because actually they should have a taller physique, more like a rower or a swimmer. You would be well suited from a physiological standpoint. Whereas I'm 5'4", but I can go forever. So like, I'm an endurance athlete. I'm one of the lower half swimmers, an average cyclist, but I'm a very good runner. So it's quite nice at the end to catch up a bit and be overtaking on that last leg.
You're a diesel engine.
I'm a diesel engine. Yes, I am.
Hockey, riding, triathlon.
But the riding's a thing of the past. Yeah.
Yeah, it's never a good financial decision.
No. If you want to become a millionaire in horses, you start as a billionaire.
Right. I see. And then quickly goes straight down.
Just dwindles. Yeah.
It's just burning cash.
Yes. Yeah, like your file with cash. Yeah.
Brilliant. So would you explain your job? Your
Line of work. Yeah. I am a contrast therapy instructor trained by one of the leading scientists in the world, Dr. Susanna Soberg. I'm also a reflexologist and holistic therapist, which I've been working as for many, many years. But I felt a slight frustration and limitation in my work that if someone comes to me with like an ongoing problem like insomnia, arthritic pain, menopause symptoms, I only have them in my room for like 1 hour or an hour and a half. Like, there's only so much impact I can have on their quality of life. So I have been thinking, what is the other string to add to my bow? And then on a personal front, with sport at the heart of like my hobbies, I've been doing cold plunges for about 7 years, pre-kids, pre-COVID, and that was for muscle recovery. But I came to quite quickly realize like the biggest benefit of above everything else is like the mental health boost. And I can explain it later on. It's unbelievable. So when Dr. Soberg announced last year she was going to select 25 people in the world and train them up in Sweden to spread her message. Oh my God, I was there. I was filling out that form, take my money, pay that deposit. Yeah. And honestly, it is just the most rewarding work. It's absolutely fascinating. And it is for 98% of the population, not those with really severe heart conditions, not suitable for someone that's pregnant, but literally from like young to old, all ages, genders, ethnicities, this is your friend. And the sporting performance, the recovery and the performance enhancement aspect is really interesting too.
So what I would normally say is what is the best and the worst part of the sport. But because we're kind of doing something different and we've covered the best part of cold plunge and contrast therapy already, what do you think is the biggest myth that is sort of spread apart and that can be your worst part of it?
Easy. This is that it's unsuitable for women. And I mean, social media and the ability to influence is a double-edged sword. So let me just say for the record, women can do this and get all of the benefits, but we need to be intelligent. And there are certain things to consider when we do contrast. Unfortunately, a couple of the leading female like health influencers in the world who are experts in their field, but not within thermal stress, over the last year or two, they have misinterpreted a couple of trials that have been published and then gone out on the internet and said, ladies, don't do this. Like, ladies, this is going to give you a cortisol spike, or this is terrible for perimenopause. False, false, false. The study in particular that they were looking at is when they put women in really low single-digit temperature waters, but for 170 minutes.
Oh my God.
170 minutes. That is, hang on, 60, 120, 180. Is that right? That's at like 2-3 hours.
That's mad.
Yeah.
I spend like if I'm dunking in the lake, only in summer when it's warm, because I haven't quite got myself up. But when I'm dunking, I'm maybe in for like 2 or 3 minutes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That is the point of it. It's microdosing. But anyway, the point is that study was ridiculous. Yeah. And we don't really know why it was conducted, because why in any part of your life would you be in water that long unless you'd fallen off a boat out at sea and you needed rescuing? So funnily enough, the women in that trial were in absolute nervous system chaos and their hormones were like really affected. It screwed them up. But that is not how we do it. We do it for like 1, 2, 3 minutes. You build up, you acclimatize, you habituate, and you can push the benefits and your times more in the follicular phase of your cycle for those women. When you're leading up to your period, you're more sensitive to physical and mental stresses. So you can still use it, but you might use it just for shorter or less frequent intervals. That's so interesting. Also, who has that? I was trying to do the maths of like how long 170 minutes is. It's a long time. I know.
I've never seen that. And they would have been like absolutely freezing and coming out like prunes.
It's so dangerous because when you're in cold water for more than about 5-6 minutes, the after drop. So that's what happens when you get out of the water. and your body temperature continues to cool, that becomes harder to manage. It's harder to re-warm yourself naturally, and then you could enter hypothermic zones, which you don't want to do.
That is a really good myth bust.
Oh, can I address the cortisol too?
Yes, of course.
So this is another thing that comes out. Women shouldn't cold plunge because of the cortisol release.
This can be your sporting ick, your contrast ick.
Okay, yeah, let's go with that.
Misinformation about cortisol.
Yeah. So cortisol gets demonized, and it should be demonized if we are in chronic cortisol territory. But we do actually need to produce cortisol, and we do naturally a few times a day. Naturally, when we wake up and expose ourselves to bright natural lights, we produce it. If you drink tea or coffee, you might produce it. If you've got a stressful or even an exciting event coming up, people need to contrast therapy, produce and release a little bit of cortisol just before a cold plunge. But it doesn't matter. It's a bit of a red herring to say that's a problem, because within minutes, the cortisol has been removed and replaced with lots of other beneficial neurotransmitters and hormones. And if anyone follows Andrew Huberman from Huberman Lab, what's his title? He's like head of neurobiology at Stanford University. He is the guy to listen to on the topic of cortisol. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I think I'm going to spend most of this podcast just being like, this is so interesting. We've done our best and our worst parts. Well, I guess we kind of tweaked it so it fits into the podcast. So we would do a dying on the hill, or what we're dying on the hill about this week. I guess the overall topic is the importance of contrast therapy. But do you have a working title or a way that you would like to introduce it as?
Yeah, and there's, to check I interpret this very cool, unique question properly, is this the thing like ultimately I feel super passionate about and would want to change?
100%.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's when I'm out and about, it could be a social setting, and I tell somebody what I do, and they go, oh, I don't like the cold. That's not for me. Those are the people, I mean, like with a high challenge appetite, I really want to convert, but you know, unless they hear it through other people in their network or they read it in the media over and over how good this is, they're just not going to come. But I wish they knew that no one really likes the cold.
No.
You train yourself to get used to it, and through creating a habit of cold plunging, you do desensitize, not in a dangerous manner, in like a healthy manner, the temperature receptors in your skin. So when I get into a cold plunge tub now, like I do not have the same response I did years ago. Like I won't be producing cortisol. I don't gasp. I can control my breathing. There's little to no shivering. Yeah, but most people do say, "Oh, I don't like the cold," and that's just it's just a mental opinion.
So what would you say to the people who just instantly go, I don't like the cold? What are I know we want to talk about like the sporting benefits. So I'm, ex-athlete now. I don't like the cold. How could you sort of persuade me on like the recovery benefits, or just talk to me about because I know athletes like numbers and stats and facts for simple creatures.
I like it. Yeah,
we can understand them.
Yeah, I really like that question. And if it's okay, I'm going to ask it in like general broad terms for the whole population, and then I'll go more specific with 100%. The athlete's answer. I think for someone to try contrast therapy, if they've told me they don't like the cold, they need to have a motivation to try it that is bigger than their fear and dislike of the cold. So for example, at the moment, I currently have quite a lot of people coming for private sessions that are between 55 and 70. They're not doing it for sporting performance. They are doing it because a lot of them are starting to live with low-grade pain. Like they've had knee operations, or they fell skiing and they need a hip replacement, or they've got arthritis pain. And it's not stuff that needs big day-to-day medication, but they want to improve their quality of life and reduce their inflammation, eliminate or certainly reduce the pain through the natural pain relief mechanisms, which I can explain. Their sleep, not all of them are sleeping well, so it's very effective on that front. And the mood boost. Like the mood boost, this is a slight tangent, so I apologize, but I feel so strongly about public mental health. Like in the UK last year, over 9 million people receive prescriptions for antidepressive medication. Like over 9 million people from a population of about 70 million. Like that's high, really high. So you think about your friends and your family, your network, several people within it will be on them. And you'll look at them and think, they're fine. Like they're great, they're functional. But actually, they don't feel like they can cope, which is why they've gone to the doctor and said, help. I wish, in fact, this is another die on the hill comment, but I wish that the doctors and nurses, or maybe it's the GPs specifically, knew the like transformation that can happen in your brain through using the cold and the heat. So this really is a tangent, but okay. I just want to make this point. Slightly morbid, but really profound. So when they sampled the blood, this was done several years ago, of a whole bunch of suicide victims, they noticed extremely high levels of IL-6, interleukin-6, in their bloodstream. And when you've got a lot of that in the brain, literally your brain is raging, like it's really on fire. Like it's very, very difficult to create mental balance, and the sensitivity of their opioid and cannabinoid receptors to detect endorphins and all of the good feel-good hormones is so compromised. And then when they took the blood from, I think it was 30 living victims with long-term chronic depression, again, they had extremely high levels of IL-6. So they took 30 of them, and this is the power of the heat. Both the hot and the cold have a really great effect on mental health. But in this experiment, they used sauna for 20 minutes. So one session, 20 minutes at 80 degrees. And that group of chronic depressives reported little to no depression symptoms for up to 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. Like it is unbelievable. And this is just like natural lifestyle medicine.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting. So interesting.
Bringing it back to your original question.
Was it circling back?
Yeah, circling back. So you asked, how do I get people to try this? Now, in a sporting context, I think people are already super motivated to do better, 100%. Be better, row faster, lift heavier.
I said earlier, I've got a friend, Heidi, who listens, so hopefully she'll be thrilled to be mentioned.
Oh, Heidi.
Hi, Heidi. She was saying that she's like, just recovery, this, like, I know it's so good for me, so if I just sort of like, as soon as I get a little bit ill, I just throw myself in and hope for the best. And it's not, sorry, Heidi, massively outing you here, but there's not quite
there's a precise way
to do it where she can actually get a few more benefits than just sort of like jumping in, hoping for the best and hoping it will reset everything, a factory reset.
Exactly. And contrast therapy is best known as a recovery tool. And in that regard, it is amazing. Like if you can use the hot and the cold, so that alternate action, hot, cold, causes the vasoconstriction and dilation of your blood vessels. It's like they call it the vascular pump. So using the vascular pump, you can squeeze out metabolic waste, so lactic acid and other toxins and things that you just want to get rid of. That pump will support better oxygen and nutrient delivery to the muscles and the areas that need it for repair, quicker cell turnover, more protein synthesis. So that allows you to increase the frequency of high quality training. So there's no good only being able to do 2 like maximum intensity training sessions a week if you're building towards gains, let's say. Doesn't matter what your sport, amateur or elite. But imagine if you could do 4 high intensity, like mega quality sessions a week by building in recovery, you will be a superior athlete. And I've had these facilities here at home now for 2 months, and I've got this state-of-the-art Garmin. I've now got a Whoop. Like I'm teched up to the max. I'm like a data girl through and through. But it's really amazing to see how intelligent recovery is improving my own performance. And, like I said, I'm not looking to set records or stand on podiums. But what I do want to mention is the performance enhancement aspect of it, because there are some specific protocols. And this is like the chicken and egg. Do you contrast and then perform at peak? and then contrast for recover. I mean, that is the cycle, but people think of it at the moment as perform, then recover, perform, then recover. Whereas I want people to look at it differently and think contrast for peak performance and set you up for your big event the next day. But that contrast has to be a very specific session so you don't exhaust your cells before a big event, race, whatever it might be. And there is a very intense sauna protocol that you cannot just jump straight into. Like, you've got to build up to it. And this, like, your eyebrows will raise when I explain it to you, but it is 4 30-minute sauna sessions in a day, split into 2. So in the morning, and you do this in a semi-fasted state, so you don't eat 2 to 3 hours before, because to increase production of human growth hormone, which is what we want for muscle hypertrophy, you need to have quite an empty tummy, and you're going to do 30 minutes in the sauna, and you come out for about 5 minutes to just cool off and let your system rest slightly, and then you go back in again. And let me just say, hydration, electrolytes are like absolutely pivotal here.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, you would repeat it again, 30 minutes, 5 minutes rest outside in the cool air, another 30 minutes. And if you do that, you can increase human growth hormone levels by 16 times. Oh my God. Like, that is unbelievable. And I mean, blood doping's been banned for forever, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Was it ever permitted?
I don't think it's not one of those things where people are like, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
It looks very natural.
I don't know if they did it in the 90s or not before. Anyway, but that's banned for professional athletes. So you have got some things you can do in like a natural manner to improve HGH, including sleep. So human growth hormone is released at night in the early stages of your sleep during deep sleep, and some in REM, dream sleep too. So the contrast therapy resets your nervous system and gives you improved sleep quality. It changes your architecture, so the deep sleep and REM sleep will lengthen too, better for recovery and better for HGH release. So this is like, that's just a nugget, like an idea of how you can use this for performance enhancement.
It's literally so fascinating. I love the idea of the heat, so I don't mind the idea of going into the sauna, but I think the longest I've done is maybe 15-20 minutes and then a 5-minute break, and then do like another 15-20 minutes. The idea of 2 hours basically in a day, even though it's broken up, is kind of quite daunting. Obviously, I'm not trying to peak for any sort of sporting performance at the moment, but how would people sort of build up, or what sort of time frame would they build up in order to do that? Because I'm guessing you don't just jump in and hope for the best. I mean, maybe as a younger athlete, I maybe would have jumped in and hoped for the best, but that's obviously not that productive. You would want to sort of gradually build up into it. So how would you recommend doing that?
To use that intense protocol, honestly, you probably want 6 to 8 weeks of sauna experience before you get there. I'm working with a runner who I'm going to sponsor to see how we can get him running faster than ever this summer and autumn. And he's only been coming for a couple of weeks. So we're not going to jump into that yet. We're building towards it. And it's going to be really interesting because this guy, he's 40 actually. So he's in the master's system, I should say. He's done 3 years with them in their England marathon camp. That's his main distance. But my God, does he run every distance quick. He's an ex-Marine, so he's mentally, like, he's really, really tough. And he had a race 2 weeks ago. And strategic, we planned a session the night before. So the race was in the morning. The session was the night before. So that's a really short lead time. We needed to ensure he stayed hydrated and didn't lose too much sodium, potassium, magnesium through sweat. But we did a 1 to 2 minute cold plunge to reduce inflammation in his muscles and act as a natural pain relieving effect from the endorphin release. Then we did a very considered, it was about a 25-minute sauna, not at extreme heat. So it was, I think we were closer to the 70, 75 degrees C mark. Sometimes my sauna I'll have up to 80 or 90. It depends on the objective. But what we wanted to do in a longer, slightly cooler sauna was to exploit a couple of things. And the point was to relax his muscle fibers. So the following day, his muscles had the capacity to contract and relax at a longer range, a fuller range. So he could, because when he says when he's his muscles are tight, his stride length is shorter. So we wanted to support his optimal running technique. The other lever that's pulled through that kind of session is that the spindles, the muscle spindles, can become hypersensitive. And when they're hypersensitive and sending off increased number of like pain signals, that's a performance inhibitor because it can block muscle contraction at its fullest. So that acts as like a pain relieving effect. And then the third thing is something called gateway theory. So the spinal cord is like a switchboard of pain signals up towards the brain. And both the cold and heat do this, but in particular the heat. If you can close some of those gateways through a nice long-ish, safe sauna session, then again, you are inhibiting the pain pathway to the brain. So the next day, he had an increased tolerance and ability to run through what would normally be discomfort. Like the day before, it would have been discomfort, but he could push himself that bit further, like the extra 1 or 2 or 3% for performance gains. And he set a record. He set a personal best over 5K. And, you know, this guy's 40 and he's running England camps. Like, he knows how to run fast.
Yeah, that's mental to be sort of setting PBs in your 40s. That's crazy. I think I felt like I was slowing down in my late 20s, but so yeah, very cool to be setting PBs in your 40s. So he's done that. I've got some rowing friends / my now husband. He's going out to Shanghai for the World Championships in rowing this year. How would you recommend as a recovery tool to be using this hot cold? If you were going to tailor a recovery session for them, what would you do?
And are you talking about recovery between races or recovery at the end of the
It'll probably be recovery between races because once they finish their final, they'll probably go out on the piss and then they've got a month off.
a proper knees up?
Knees up.
Well, if you look at the recovery habits used this year at Wimbledon, I think it was the first year ever where they created a recovery zone for the athletes, which we need to see everywhere.
Yeah.
I think the Lions Tour also had recovery spaces set up after each game. And bearing in mind these venues, like a rowing club, it probably won't have a sauna. Wimbledon, I don't think they have a sauna. So therefore, you're going to use the cold water immersion as your friend. They want to get into the water as quickly as possible to reduce the muscle inflammation and soreness. When you create micro tears within your muscles through intense performance, you produce something called angiotensin 2, which is an inflammatory marker, and it can be really, really uncomfortable. So by using the cold water and the vasoconstriction, you're kind of flushing that through with some of the metabolic waste as well. IL-6, which I mentioned earlier, and linked to mental health, but that again can sit and manifest within the cells and the muscles. So you want to eliminate that to speed up and support nutrient delivery, oxygen delivery, just make them feel more comfortable. But I think from a practical standpoint, they're just not really going to have saunas unless they start using these pop-up sauna companies. Yeah. And in terms of duration, this is going to come down to, are they cold water acclimatized? Are they male or female? Where's the woman at in her cycle? And whether you're male, female, whatever, we all have different sensitivity in our temperature receptors in our skin. So you might be really hardened to the cold. I could be a complete sissy. So even though we might both try and do...
I think it's definitely the other way.
The other way around. I was trying to build you up.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
But, you know, we could both do 2 minutes on the water and it could feel really easy for one of us and really tough for the other.
Yeah.
But generally people talk about 1 to 3 minutes, 1 to 4 minutes. You don't really want to be going over 5 because then you are exhausting the cells.
Okay.
And diminishing the recovery return.
That's really interesting because it's kind of like you get in and you're just like, I'll be in here for as long as possible. And it's either, you know, me, I might get in and jump out very, very quickly, or Some will be like so determined, they're like, I need to be in here for like 10 minutes. So it's interesting that it's not over 5 for recovery.
No,
Because you're trying to support the cells as opposed to exhaust them.
exactly. So I mentioned,
Oh yeah.
yeah, so 1 to 3 minutes, 1 to 4 minutes. And there is like a minimum target, let's say, to try and get through.
My maximum, but yeah.
Your maximum. But when you get into the water, you activate the sympathetic part of the nervous system. Do you know what I mean by that?
Is that the bit that's everyone's like, you must get the back of your neck wet or something? Is that
That's more for the opposing
okay,
action.
Okay.
Yeah.
You explain it.
Okay. So the sympathetic part of your nervous system is like your fight or flight. It's in a heightened state. Some people call it a stressed state, but actually it can present as eustress, eustress, which is positive stress too, or excitement. And when you enter the cold, this happens. So sympathetic activation, otherwise it's known as the cold shock response. So this lasts about 45 seconds to a minute, depending on the person. And in that time, your heart rate increases. You might produce a little bit of cortisol if this is a new experience for you. And you will be releasing noradrenaline from the brain, as well as adrenaline and the other catecholamines. And the noradrenaline is awesome, absolutely awesome for feeling like alive, the mental clarity, alertness, brilliant. And this is part of the mental health package that you get from the cold water. The noradrenaline will bind, so acts as both a hormone and a neurotransmitter, and it binds to the brown fat. Now, I don't know if all the listeners will be aware that we actually have 3 fat types. We've got white.
Probably not.
Probably not. White fat, which is our insulator and protects us. It's also energy storage, so often, around our tummies and legs and bottoms. You've got beige fat, which is the smallest amount of fat, and that sits within white fat stores. And then you've got brown fat. This is the magic. So special stuff. Yeah. And the largest depot of it is beneath your collarbones, but you've got it running down the central nervous system, like down your spine, and it acts as your power heater. So you're in that water, the noradrenaline is binding to receptors on the brown fat, and it turns it on, and it's absolutely chucking out heat. So this is how we stay safe and comfortable within the water. So that's good. So we're going to create heat and stay safe through muscle shivering and brown fat activation. Then when you come through the cold shock, you actually activate your parasympathetic nervous system. So you mentioned the cold water on the back of the neck.
Yeah.
Splashing your face as well is a really good way to activate the vagus nerve, which is a key part of parasympathetic activation. So this is like rest and recovery mode.
Okay.
And this is why you do want to try and get through 45 seconds to a minute in the cold water, because if you can spend just a little bit of time, like 30 seconds or a minute in the parasympathetic activation, you are going to get out of that tub feeling incredible. So your dopamine, which is responsible for like good mood, motivation, that doubles after 2 minutes. Your endorphins, your feel-good hormones, they will be sky high too. You release oxytocin in the water, which is the love hormones. You just get out and want to have a big hug. This is all really juicy stuff. So imagine this package of feel-good hormones. Normally, that is combined in life with quite a high energy state. So say like maybe before a big party, before a race, before your wedding, perhaps.
Yeah.
High happiness can be with high energy, and that can actually be it depends how far you go on the what's it called, inverted U theory of arousal, but displayed as being incoherent or scatty or manic. Do you know what I mean? Where it tips over.
That I can definitely be scatty and manic.
Yeah.
Overexcited.
There you go. A bit like a cocker spaniel.
100%.
Yeah.
Or a border collie. I'm just all over the place. I can't string a thought together, but I'm happy doing it, if that makes sense.
Good. So you understand what I'm trying to explain.
Yeah.
Now, the absolute magic of that second part of the cold plunge is the fact that you go so calm. Calm. And your heart rate comes down. If your resting heart rate was, let's just say, 55 when you got in the cold plunge tub, it's going to go up, as I mentioned, in the first part of the cold shock. And then when you're activating the parasympathetic nervous system and you finish and come out, your heart rate will be lower than when you started. So it might now be, say, 50-ish, like low 50s, even 40s, depends on your cardiovascular fitness. And that is such a unique state to be so happy, but so calm. And when people walk away from I call it my wellness garden, and go home, they just look so spaced out. It's so relaxed and so happy. But I honestly don't know how else you create that marriage of feelings.
Not that legally.
I do really enjoy, as I said, I really enjoy my dips in the lake. I don't do them that often or that scientifically or necessarily even in the winter because I'm a bit of a wuss, but I do really enjoy them, and I have felt that state that you're describing. I know you're saying cortisol, and before this podcast I would have said maybe adrenaline, sort of when you're nervous and you're bracing yourself to go in, and once you've got in there's always that massive sense of achievement, and then when you get out you're very settled and you hurry to put your layers on and have a hot chocolate or whatever, that kind of thing. I'm not sure in the wellness garden that you've got, Rose, whether or not that's a protocol, hot chocolate and a dry robe, but definitely out in the lakes, it's a hot chocolate, a dry robe, put your towel on, and then a hot march back to wherever you've parked.
There's something really beautiful about that, though. During COVID, when we were allowed out once a day, there was such a huge uptake of wild swimming in the UK. Probably everywhere around the world, but we're lucky here in the Cotswolds because there are so many lakes to swim in. And the majority of people that started wild swimming, they haven't stopped because I think that interaction with nature too, like being able to see some ducks swimming along or some trees blowing in the wind, does other really beautiful positive things to your brain, which I don't know the science of, but being outside in nature is very good for us, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
And then there's that community aspect, and get your dry robe on, have a hot cup of coffee. And you're in that heightened state of, high dopamine, high oxytocin. It feels good to be around other people.
I would just say really quickly to some of the listeners, I know some of you might be Oxfordshire or maybe London based and you're based near a river. I think it's really, really important to, if you're thinking of doing a dip, to go with a buddy or also have a bit of local knowledge about the body of water that you're about to jump into, because lakes have their own sort of dangerousness about them, but rivers are very, very different beasts, especially in the winter, and there can be a lot of currents and flow and all sorts of things that you need to be aware of, and it's not just as straightforward as hopping in and hopping out again. So I would really encourage to go with a friend, but also have a bit of local knowledge about where you're about to throw yourself into a body of water. I had another question specifically around female hormones, and I know a lot of my listeners are women specifically. There's a massive section of my podcast graph that shows me that there's a lot of women in their 20s listening, and the split is like 70% women, 30% men. So shout out to you guys. But in that demographic, what sort of advice or what sort of general guidance can we give for people cold plunging around their menstrual cycle? I know there are a lot of changes happening in the menstrual cycle. I know at some points I want to go out there and do everything, and there's other points where I want to hibernate in a dark hole and not speak to anyone. So I'm guessing contrast therapy might fluctuate with that as well.
Yeah, totally. So we have some hardcore knowledge and data, which leads to the general guidance being in that first 2 weeks of our cycle, so pre-ovulation, the follicular phase, we have a greater capacity for stress. I actually prefer using the word strain, but mental and physical load. And usually that week before ovulation is when we're our most vibrant and energetic, happier mood, better libido, all this good stuff. That is when you can push your contrast therapy timings, intensity a bit further. The same with your training. And there are some great companies out there, like I think it's called Jessica Ennis's business, using sports science specifically with women. You've got Dr. Stacey Sims in the US that again has done so much work, getting really prescriptive, detailed protocols for women. Then post ovulation, when we can experience symptoms of PMT, raise your hand. I'm raising my hand right now. This is when you have a smaller capacity to handle strain. The irony here is that personally, the week before I'm due on to have a period, I was just laying it out there because it is
important.
relevant. That's when I'm most irritable and I feel more impatient and like short-tempered with the dogs or the kids, or like trying to get them out the door and do the school run, all of that. So even though I know my body is less resilient at that time, I actually really do lean on a regular but very, very short cold water burst to help reset me mentally.
Okay.
So if I can start the day and wash in the hot shower, but then turn it cold at the end, even for 30 seconds. So I'm not like really pushing my cells to the max. That just really helps keep me even, like more stable. And also, if a woman suffers from endometriosis,
Okay.
and with that pain, this could be really effective. So again, it's where the guidance at the moment says use it more pre-ovulation, but it's we don't have studies around women using it for endometriosis. Like, it hasn't gone as detailed as that. It's been for the general population. Now we've got some sports science, but over the next 5 years, we're going to see this come out thick and fast.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm so in love with the company Whoop and all the work they're doing, because their sample size is 11,000 people.
Wow.
And providing that people keep completing their daily journal accurately, they will be able to start to see the influences of all lifestyle factors, but sauna and cold plunge too on a woman within their cycle.
I think that's like disappointingly quite a general narrative across all female studies, is there's basically just not enough information out there, or not enough information has been done. And because we have a menstrual cycle, you know, it's more difficult to run accurate tests on us, I guess. I'm not a scientist, obviously. I'm using all the wrong terminology. But I've been using Clue, I think, since about 2017 to track my period. I've been using it for years. I'm a loyal girl. If it's not broken, don't fix it. And I think when I joined the app, it was the data that I provided was then going to go on to help further research and stuff. And it had like my body weight and what sort of activity I was doing. And it also served me a purpose, like it could tell me when I was maybe going to have my period or not. So it has got really interesting information. My next question is, do you have a favourite sporting moment so far?
Yeah, there are a few that instantly spring to mind. I think perhaps one of my proudest moments is when I completed my first half Ironman distance triathlon. That was here in the Cotswold Water Park, like crossing the line. And interestingly, I always run my fastest times in a triathlon, even though I've done the swim and a cycle beforehand. And I think it's because when I train for pure running, I can't really call it training. Like, I'm not very good at pushing myself physically. I need a coach. I need someone to like shout at me or whip me a bit, or which is why I love spin classes. Well, I don't love them, but I know the results are going to be better to me sitting on the peloton and
On your own.
it's inspiring, isn't it, to see other people pushing themselves and
100%.
like meeting a new limit. I think getting selected for the West of England, this is Masters stuff, for the hockey this year, that was a huge, like, proud moment for me, because when I had children, and my children are 2 and 5, so they're pretty young.
Yeah.
I think I kind of thought that like my competitive sporting life was probably over. And so many women then adopt this mindset of I'm just a mum, or because I'm a mum, ... And you can finish that sentence for those mums listening, like however fits you. And I've been building this new business, and sport has always been there as a passion. But to get picked again at, I know it's not England, it's not the Olympics, but like the standard of quality is really good. And in the first day of the tournament, I was on the bench as a reserve, and I started coming on more and more. And then on day 2, the second day, funnily enough, day 2, second day, the final day of the tournament, in our final games, I moved into the starting lineup and scored a goal in the last game, and we got the bronze medal. And that was all that was really special
Mm.
because I achieved that and did that with like the most amazing team of women, all at the same life stage as well. Like doing this for them, this is their outlets. Like they want to be devoted mums, good partners, if they work really good at their job, but like this is their sporting outlet. This is a thing for them. And they can leave those other hats and roles behind. Like we were just hockey players that weekend.
I bet they were absolute savages because I feel like once you become a mum, like your pain tolerance level and like maybe you've got some pent up anger or whatever it is, and to put that time aside to go and be on a hockey pitch and be like, this is for me, this moment. I just bet they were like obviously an incredible group, but like a savage group of players.
They are quite fearless. Like I actually still have a lump here on my head. In that final game, I had a head injury and an egg for days. The ball was like equidistant between me and one of the opposition, and we just both went for it. And neither of us really know what happened, but we both went down. Either my head collided with her knee or stick or something like that. And one of our defenders, so from my team, I mean, she basically saved a goal with her face. Like she was heroic, and thank God for her gum shield, because otherwise, yeah, she might not have too many teeth left.
She'd be going to the dentist with her kids.
Yeah.
Just like, well, here are their teeth. Could you put them in my mouth now?
Oh, I know.
That's so lovely, though, to be part of a big female community. I know that's a bit that I miss, but I've been very lucky that I get to do this now. And what I'm doing at the moment means I get to meet lots of different women and hear lots of different stories, and also be like my friend's biggest support fangirl. And I'm always in their DMs on social media being like, yes. And maybe that's helpful, maybe that's not. I don't really know. Do you have a best fuck up that you would be happy to share with the world?
Yes, definitely. This is a professional one. So I had, when the clients come over, I try and mirror them, like match their energy. It's called client speak, but however they talk, try and match their intonation, and it builds rapport and strengthens the relationship. And I had this male client that came for a treatment, not contrast therapy. I think this was reflexology. He was very dry. Very, very dry. No sarcastic humor either. So I'm like, fine, okay. I'll match you. I'll meet you. This is going to be my most professional moment of the week. And anyway, I did well. The treatment had come to an end, and I was about to guide him out of the room, down the stairs, and see him off. And as I was getting up, I tripped over the rug on the floor and just absolutely like piled out. And that's it. And I don't know if you remember from school, but if you had a very strict teacher and something funny happened, it's impossible to stay straight faced. Like, because I've been so serious, I got the giggles. I got the giggles and kind of like giggled all the way down the stairs as I was seeing him out. And I just, do you know what? I just told him. I said, I've worked all day. I've had 5 or 6 clients. I've been very professional. And that's just a moment of silliness.
Did he laugh as well? Was he more...
He smiled.
He smiled.
Okay. I know what you mean when you're trying to be really, really on it, and then something small happens and you just get the giggles, and the whole rest of the moment you're like fight or flight, or trying to fight it before it bubbles into the surface. I've definitely been in a group setting before where I'm like on my best behaviour, and it's maybe with people that you don't know, and you've been trying really, really hard not to let too much of your personality slip out, or maybe that's just me. And my dad often says that I use the turn of phrase only a scaffolder would be proud of, in that my language can be a bit abrasive at times. But you're like sat in a group and you're on your best behaviour, and then like a burp or a fart comes up and you're a goner. And you're a goner before it even comes up, because you've already got the giggles before it's left your body.
Yeah.
Or somebody like burps and farts and that's it. I'll be gone. I'll be gone.
With our young kids, like the funniest thing to them is toilet humor. And also that's like the rudest insult they can come up with, like, you've got smelly bum. And, luckily they don't know any 4-letter words yet. We'll try and keep it that way. But because we're trying to iron this out, I have to turn away.
Yeah.
I cannot let them see me laugh, because otherwise that's like green flag. green lights. We can
Toilet
do.
humour is the funniest thing.
I know, but I just there's a time and a. We know there's a time and a place,
Yeah,
but they don't.
I have two more questions that I wanted to, from our usual format. One is a piece of advice that changed, I've got changed the game, but changed things for you.
I'm gonna say, stop living in such a thermoneutral life.
Ooh.
What I mean by that is we have air conditioning and heating in our cars. We've got heating in our house. If you're very lucky or you live in a hot climate, you might have aircon too.
Mm.
We wrap up in layers, and the minute a child steps outside, we say, "Oh, wrap up, darling." But the thing is, we have this Paleolithic DNA, which needs a workout.
Mm.
Our metabolisms are slower and slowing, and we have a systemic inflammation issue. And remember, inflammation is the cause of all physical and mental illness. And if we can use the cold, and I'm going to hang my hat here on the cold, walk your dog in the winter in a t-shirt,
Oh.
sleep in a bedroom when you can in the cooler months below 19 degrees Celsius, because we want to grow our brown fat stores,
Mm-hmm.
increase mitochondrial efficiency, and speed up our metabolism. Like, our systems are sluggish and inflamed because of the thermoneutral environment we live in.
That's a good one. Well, it's a niche one, but it's very good.
It's niche.
It's a niche one, but it's very good.
Yeah.
My final question: what are you listening to in the gym, or in, like, what's the soundtrack of your week?
I never know songs' names because I listen to Spotify playlists, but I do love, for good vibes, whether that's on a spin bike or just like dancing around the kitchen. I love Latino music.
Oh,
Definitely.
yes.
Yeah, you can do a little sachet and a hip roll, bit of salsa. I also love sea shanties,
Oh, that's a
like
good one.
Wellerman,
Yeah.
Nathan, what is he called? Nathan Evans. Anyway, he makes some great ones. And I have really curated playlists throughout my contrast therapy sessions to match. So I've got arrivals, I've got breathwork, I've got mid cold plunge euphoria, post cold plunge extra euphoria, I've got sauna, and there are plenty of sea shanties in there as well.
Have you ever listened? Well, you must have done Bellowhead.
No, I'll be playing it.
Yeah, Bellowhead. They're like folky sea shanty type thing. They're quite good for that sort of thing. You have to look them up.
Oh, thanks for the recommendation.
Yeah, Bellowhead. So you've got Latino salsa music and sea shanties as your mix.
Yeah, I love them. In terms of artists, I'm a big fan of Alex Warren. And guilty pleasure, I do like Justin Bieber.
Have you been listening to his new album?
I have, yeah. As well as the ones he made when he was like 13.
What do you think of the new album? I've heard a bit of it on radio, but not.
I've only listened to a few songs so far, but that single that's out and everyone's using on Instagram reels and stuff, it is lovely.
Those are all of my questions. Is there anything that you feel like you really wanted to cover that you haven't covered?
I suppose I'd like to just re-emphasize that contrast therapy isn't just for the elite. It's not just for the young. It's not just for men. It is for most people. I don't have an age cap as such. I think my oldest client's probably been 74. That will come down to their health circumstances and their heart functioning and their blood pressure, which I would check. At a lower limit, I haven't been requested to work with young people, but I'd probably work with 14 upwards with parental supervision and their sign-off. But this can really improve the quality of your life, like your sleep, your metabolism, your happiness state, your mental clarity, your memory. And then from a sporting angle, recovery, performance, it's a must.
Yeah.
It's not a fad. It's a science-backed tool that should be utilised by every athlete.
So Rose actually got in touch with me after recording this podcast because she desperately wanted this final little nugget of information to be included. And that was that women are better suited to cold plunging as opposed to ice bathing. So ice bathing is normally 3 to 5 degrees, single digits, and it is a major stressor on our systems. Whereas cold plunging is 11 to 15 degrees. Anything below 15 degrees is defined as cold water, and it will give you the cascade of health benefits that were sort of mentioned earlier on in the podcast. Her final leaving comment, if you like, was ice bathing is very cool and it's popularized on social media a lot because it's very dramatic and, you know, it looks very, I guess it looks very dramatic if someone's getting into a tub full of ice and there's a huge amount of drama, but it's absolutely not necessary for men or women to do these cold sessions in this way. You can cold plunge in temperatures of below 15 degrees basically, and that would be a lot safer and give you all the benefit.
Yeah.
So you can find you at Rose Unwin Wellness on Instagram and www.roseunwinwellness online as well.
.com.
.com.
Yeah.
Online as well.
And I will, because when I create some content, usually I write like a long format blog, I email it to my clients, and then I do a short snippet somehow on social media.
Yeah.
But your audience might be interested in the longer form video stuff. I'm going to start YouTubing it too.
Oh, awesome.
So I can go really specific, really niche on areas of the sports science.
Well, thank you very, very much for coming on and sharing all of your knowledge. I've definitely found it like so eye-opening.
Thank you for inviting me. It's the first time I've ever done anything like this. So hopefully I don't come across like an idiot.
You won't come across like an idiot. Nobody comes across like an idiot. No, I think that's really good. I think that's brilliant. Awesome.